Hello, and welcome to the Thyroid Warrior Podcast. I'm Ebony, and I'm here as your wellness facilitator. I'm going to be sharing my experiences in managing Hashimoto's disease. I really hope that it'll help you on your personal journey. Keep in mind, however, this does not substitute for medical advice. It is only for your information and motivational purposes only. Now, let's get started. Hello, everyone. I am so nervous, mostly because this is something that I have never shared publicly before. I am 110% certain that even some of the people that I consider friends don't even know this, but oh yeah, and my family members, some of them don't know either, but that is okay. You guys are my family, and I have shared a lot of intimate details about life with my autoimmune condition, but this time it's a little bit more personal. But the reason why I'm sharing this is really to encourage you and to show you that all things are possible when you put it in your mind that you can do something and you dig as deep as you possibly can in your faith and your belief system and really surround yourself with community. So, with that said, over the last year, I mentioned this a couple of times in past podcast episodes, but there was a bigger reason why I wasn't very consistent with podcasting last year. And that is because I was going through a divorce. It was hands down one of the most traumatic times of my life. And I've told you all about my background. I went through drug addiction watching my birth father. I went through seeing my mother have a nervous breakdown and battle with depression and bipolar depression. I dealt with my brother at various points in times not really liking me because of things that I couldn't control, with my mother and father being sick, and his poor little 7-year-old self at the time didn't realize that they had health issues, and my birth had nothing to do with it. But I could deal with a lot of things, a lot of rejection, a lot of disappointment, and I would just bounce back from it. But this literally shook me to my core. And for me and my community, my family, marriage was always something that everyone just strived for. That was like, if you get married, you've made it. You have children, you do whatever it takes to keep your marriage together. It doesn't matter if you're sick, you still go to work. If that person is struggling with something, you still stick by their side. You don't talk about it. You don't voice it. If you have problems, you keep it to yourself. If he hits you, then you kind of talk about that, and then he goes to jail and you move on. But it just was never, this is how you prepare for marriage. You work on yourself. You do this, you focus on prayer, you make sure the two of you are equally yoked. Like, none of that was ever really discussed with me. And I saw different examples of a healthy marriage, and I thought I understood what it meant. But once that honeymoon period wears off and you really get to know each other and you're cohabitating, and now that you're officially not dating anymore, you can't really tell them to go home. It's in those times where you really learn who that person is and who you are. And sometimes it's not always as perfect of a picture as we make it to be, whether it's in a magazine or on TV or in the movies. Like, it's not pretty sometimes. It's not easy. It's challenging. It sucks. It's difficult. And if the two of you aren't on the same page, it doesn't work. Now you can imagine how challenging this all was, because I just found myself so depressed and sad and confused. And even to this day, there are a lot of questions that I have that I know I will never get an answer to. I have to accept that. And even though I'm a person that likes to know the why behind pretty much everything that goes on, to not have those explanations, I still struggle with that. But I have to be okay with it. And having a thyroid condition wasn't fun during this time either. And I've told you all what happens when you're stressed and when you're not eating and when you're not taking care of yourself. And it literally felt like I had a flashback of 10 years ago when I felt my worst. And it was just ugly. I cry every day, multiple times a day, because I just didn't understand. I tried to work on it. I tried to suggest counseling. I tried to do all these things, and I was holding on to something by the smallest of threads, and it would never, ever, ever come back together again. And I tried to give it time. I talked to my women's group about it, the pastor. I went and did everything that I could possibly think about to make it fit back together again, and it just didn't. And I had to learn how to accept responsibility for the role that I played, and I tried to work on that. And trust me, it is so hard to acknowledge when you know you're wrong. And I had to get over that in order to try to salvage my marriage. But for him, it was just too far gone at that point. And naturally, he's not here to tell his side of it. And for his privacy and for his dignity, honestly, that I will never bash him. I will never say anything negative about him, because in his core, he's a very good person. We just weren't good together. Now, it is one of those things that I thought that I was going to walk around with a scarlet letter forever. And I never thought that I would be good enough to be accepted or loved by someone else. I was so embarrassed to tell my family, so embarrassed to tell the few friends that I did tell. And I learned that talking about divorce is not easy for people. It makes them uncomfortable. And I didn't think that I would lose as many friends as I did. I didn't think that I wouldn't get as much support as I thought I would, particularly from family. And there were so many times where I just felt like I was alone. But then I realized that I had to keep going. I had to understand that this wasn't the end. And I remember being on a call one night, and I reached out to my friend Allie and was telling her what was going on. And she suggested that I read The Energy Bus. And I don't think she realizes how much she saved my life in that moment, but she did. Because I was so sad. And I realized much later, after going through divorce care, that when you are going through a separation or divorce, it literally feels like you are ripped in two. And I can't even begin to describe to you all how painful that was, especially because it was unexpected. And we literally talked the day before about how to make things work and how to see each other's viewpoints and listen and communicate better. So for me, it really did come from left field. But I had to stay in the home with my ex-husband for 2 months until I found an apartment, and it was hard. It was hard. And there were things that happened that I was so incredibly shocked by that even to this day, it kind of takes my breath away because I was bothered by a lot of things that I saw, and I did not like it, but I had to keep my head down and stay focused on what I was trying to work towards, and that was healing myself. I had to focus on how am I going to get through this, because what started happening was my body literally shut down. I don't even remember my commute to work. I don't remember the ride home. I don't remember work. I don't remember conversations that I would have. Like, my memory, it didn't exist. It just did not exist. My hair started to fall out again. I started losing weight again because naturally I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. My joints hurt like nobody's business. And the only thing I kept wondering was, God, why are you doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? Like, I have tried to do all the things that I thought you were supposed to do, whether it was trying to save your marriage or just be a good person in general. Like, why do all of these awful things continue to happen to me? I was angry with God for a very long time until it was in a very quiet time and a quiet moment where I realized, well, how do you know that the struggle that you're going through right now isn't going to help someone else? And that pushed me to put one foot in front of the other. But I knew that in the midst of that struggle, in the midst of that sadness, in the midst of that depression, in the midst of literally undoing all of the work that I had done to try to get healthy, I knew that once I got to the other side, I promised God that I would talk about what I went through. Because we don't talk about stuff like this. And from a perspective of having an autoimmune disease, the stress that I was under wreaked pure havoc on my body. And when I look back at those pictures of me during that time, like, I could see it. I was inflamed. I was puffy. My eyes looked awful. My hair was falling out. My skin was dry. My voice was hoarse. It was awful. But I needed to keep going. And there were so many times where I laid on my floor and I cried. I'm lying. I sobbed. And it was in those moments where I realized that at the end of the day, all you have is yourself. And in order to survive in this life, you have to make the decision that you can. You have to choose that you can do this even when you don't want to, because you never know who you can inspire and encourage by putting one foot in front of the other. I don't know what you're going through in your life right now. I don't know the struggles that you have. But if you're going through a separation or divorce, I'm so sorry. Because I know how challenging that is and how embarrassing it is to want to talk about it, but no one gets it. Or I couldn't even, I still can't. I can't go to weddings yet because I'm not ready. I had to mourn the loss of children. I had to mourn the loss of what I thought my marriage was going to be. I had to mourn the loss of the old me and all of the expectations that I had about myself in that moment. It's hard. And I underestimated how much time it would really take for me to heal from that. And I knew that I needed to talk to someone, and I knew that I needed to surround myself with community. And that is why I'm encouraging you that if you are going through a hard time in your life, do not keep that to yourself. Don't do it. I tell you all the time, if you ever want to chat or talk, email me at info@ebonycolina.com and we can talk. Many of you have direct messaged me on Instagram. I have no problem talking to you because I want you to recognize and realize that you're not alone, because I know what it feels like to feel so isolated. You feel like nobody cares because everyone's so focused on watching what's on TV and all the drama that's around that. You have some friends that you thought were going to be there for you and they weren't. You have some family members that you thought would be there for you and they weren't either because everybody is lifing. But what I learned is that we have lost what it means to connect with each other. And in this time of pure reflection, I have learned that A, God is able, and every time I needed something, He always supplied my needs. And B, I went to see a therapist because I was like, I'm not doing this by myself. And then I surrounded myself with a community at church, and I found my women's group, and I love them so much. Because, y'all, I have somehow managed to get mascara up my nose because of how much I was crying during those times. And we were supposed to be talking about Bible study and Jesus, but somehow it ended up being an extension of my therapy session. And the thing is I remember saying one day, I'm sorry, y'all, but I can't hide what I'm going through. I can't hide my emotions anymore. Like, I'm tired of always being the strong one. I'm tired of trying to hold it together. I'm a mess. I'm broken. And all I can do is give you who I am in this moment, because I can't be anything else other than that, because I don't have the capacity. I don't have the strength. And to be accepted by them, regardless of the hot mess that I was, made me realize that I could do it and I could take one step further. But also, for those folks that I did tell that were around me, they have been so amazing. And I can't begin to thank God for each and every one of them. But it's hard and it's challenging, and trying to maintain a business and trying to work my full-time job and podcasting and just being present, it didn't happen. And I thought that I let you guys down. I let myself down. I let my family down. Like, I felt like I was the biggest disappointment ever. And I was so afraid to let people in and show them what was going on because I was tired of being judged by those that I had extended myself to and tried to talk about it with. But now that I'm on the other side of it, I'm going to share with you guys the steps that I took over this month to get better and to get well. And I just have to say thank you to you guys. So many of you, when I actually come on and I show my face on Instagram, which is primarily where I hang out, but when you tell me I'm glowing, or when you tell me, you look so pretty, like, you have no idea what those comments meant to me. Because in those moments, I was going through hell. And when I hear things from you all, it encourages me so much. And you have been my family in this time. And when I thought about quitting, I was like, I can't let you guys down. So I showed up as much as I could. And now I've made that commitment and that dedication to you. And I'm telling you that in this moment, that you guys are a priority for me. You matter to me because you kept me going through this very difficult time in my life. And I can never say thank you enough. And it's my hope that by sharing with you who I really am, you know that I'm not a person that's flashy or showy or anything, but I've learned that it's so important to be your own authentic self. And I learned so much about who I am and what I wanted. And that's why all year I've been telling you guys, focus on your goals, focus on what matters to you, because time is fleeting. It's short. You never know how long you're going to be on this earth. And by the way, not only was I going through a divorce, but my dad had 2 types of cancer, one of which was stage 4. My mom got sick. And it was one thing after another, you guys. And the only thing that I know that got me through this was God. Because there were some times where I remember waking up in the morning and I would have vertigo so bad. And I could not move. And I'm just so happy to be on the other side of that. Because it was not okay. And I don't care what you're going through, but I want you to know that you matter. Your life is important. You were meant to be here. And I know that this world is a challenging place to be in, but friends, let me tell you, when you learn how to find that joy within yourself and recognize that you are a gift, there's nothing that you can't do. And I want you to believe in that. I want you to affirm yourself. So stay tuned, because I'm going to walk you through exactly how I was able to get on the other side of my divorce. And this month is all about resiliency in its finest. So guys, I'm so thankful that you allowed me to be vulnerable with you today. And please know that you are never alone. We are friends. You are my family. And I just have to say thank you for being there for me, even when you didn't even know that you were. Thank you for keeping me consistent. Thank you for keeping me honest. And thank you for helping me to recognize how much I love each and every one of you. And I'm so grateful that you choose to listen to what I have to say. So with that, friends, next week, we're going to start talking about how to come from underneath all of the things that life decided to throw at you. So with that, take care. Okay, thyroid warriors, get out there and take things one step at a time. Remember, be great, reflect on your triumphs, and as always, be well. Take care.